call this meeting of the Perryton Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and the notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with Texas Open Meeting Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. Please bow with me for a word of prayer. Our dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you for letting us gather here today. We thank you for all the good things going on at Perryton ISD. We thank you for the teachers and the staff and the students who have come here to present tonight, and all the other staff and students. And we just ask that you help us make wise decisions for Perryton ISD. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Do we have anyone signed up for open forum? No one signed up for open forum. Okay. Next on the agenda, Board Appreciation Month.
And we're going to start with the junior high because they're doing the robotics, and then we can put our stuff back on the table. Pete can't hear. Rodney, can you help Pete out? He can't hear up here. The one that's zooming in. Pete. Oh, yeah. Is that here or back there?
That would be there. Oh, face that way and try that.
Do what?
See?
There you go. Can you hear us, Pete? No.
It's because we don't have the mic fall out.
Okay.
But we'll wait until the real.
Well, the mics go to this end.
Oh.
That has a. I tested the microphone on that earlier.
Okay. Well, we gotta be able to hear them if we vote later. So think about that. Let's go ahead and get the junior high going now. We can get robots out of our way.
So are we not getting any audio? We do have my microphone out. No.
You have audio back here.
Yeah. All right, come on in.
Okay, this is the robotics department for Perryton Junior High. If you don't mind for just a second, we need everything off the table, and hopefully you don't end up with a robot in your lap, but if you do, this is 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. They probably put 10 to 15 hours into their robots to program this for you. We want to thank you so much for your support and for allowing us all, myself included, to be a part of Perryton ISD. Okay, boys and girls.
You gotta get behind us. That's a little tough.
Oops, sorry, guys.
The boys may reach over your shoulders. Okay, Saul. Saul.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Saúl Palma, de parte de los magos de la tecnología robótica de Perryton Junior High. Damos gracias al Consejo Escolar de Perryton ISD. Estamos muy agradecidos. PISD, School Board Rocks. 1, 2, 3, the pop, 4, 5, 5, 6, 7,
Thank you so much. You know you've got a lot to do.
Thank you.
And here comes some snacks for you. Go catch it, Ron. Okay. Turn on to the name.
Hi, my name is Simran and I'm part of the robotics team.
Hello, my name is Cooper Schilling. I am part of the 6th grade Perryton robotics team.
Hello, my name is Roger Schilling and I'm part of the robotics team.
Hi, my name is Noel Schade and I am part of the 6th grade robotics team.
I'm Nathan Miller and I'm part of the 7th and 8th grade robotics team.
Hello, I'm Keegan Rodriguez and I'm part of the 8th grade robotics team.
I'm Gus Eiler and I'm part of the 8th grade robotics team.
Hello, my name is Saul Palma in 8th grade and robotics tech.
I'm Carter Miller and I'm in the 6th grade robotics team.
I'm Ricky Temple and I'm in the 8th grade robotics team.
I'm Liam Peter and I'm on the 6th grade robotics team.
I'm Carter Hill and I'm on the 6th grade robotics team.
My name is Billy Counts and I'm on the 8th grade robotics team.
I'm Trent Estes and I'm on the 8th grade robotics team.
I'm Elijah Garcia and I'm part of the 8th grade robotics team.
I'm Rahel Munoz and I'm part of the 7th grade robotics team.
Thank you, guys.
Everybody need to go out?
Are the students finished? Yeah. Yeah, the students are finished. But they're still going to do the rest of the board presentation.
Junior high?
You don't have to. She's going.
Not yet.
I'll lead the way.
All right, we'll watch you.
Are you gonna say anything? No, she walked out on me? Okay. And then, where's Jamie? Oh. There he is, come on in. We need to give them their baskets. Everybody doesn't know who this is. This is Jamie. She's the assistant principal at the high school.
Hello.
If you give them a face to tie that to.
This is my real thing.
Anyway, Mr. Sproul is busy, having to do some things to take care of his parents in Houston, so she's here to pass out the baskets.
Yes, so Mr. Sproul and I just wanted to thank y'all for all your hard work and great decisions that you make. Your prayer before each board meeting, that's appreciated and definitely recognized. So we really appreciate you guys and put together a few Perryton, what would you call it? Perryton garb, Perryton
Spirit wear.
Spirit wear, okay? Some Perryton stuff. Do you want me to pass them out?
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
They are, yes, I guess, you may want to leave them there because,
Yeah, I don't know.
anyway, just show them what's in one basket. There we go,
Okay.
that's a good way to do that.
There was one, they shorted us one or two things of one of them, but get yourself a nice little homemade thank you card from our art department. Our art department made that, beautiful, hand done. This is a little Perryton hat. I believe, they didn't open it, but what they told me was there's a mug in there. I'm gonna believe them. And then a shirt, and keep your booty nice and cushy. We got a little stadium seat and another t-shirt in here. I thought there was, oh, here it is, a little Perryton mask for you.
I've been asked for those masks by a lot of people, so there's your Perryton mask.
Yeah, I think there's two in there, actually. So, and a keychain, in case you drop your keys in the lake, right? Velcro. Okay? So thank y'all for everything you do.
Thank you, Jamie.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And also, we do have gift bags from the Williams and then from Kinder as well. And y'all have y'all gift cards from Rice and Cal.
And pies?
And then don't forget, Louis Pena Martin Accelerated Education Center sent a pie like they do every year. They're in the refrigerator, so make sure that you take them.
Don't forget your pie.
Don't forget your pie.
All right.
We're talking about your pie.
Oh, I'm not gonna deviate
There she
from
is.
something that seemed to be well received last year, so you have pies again in the refrigerator.
All right.
I thought you delivered mine last year.
I'll do it if you want me to.
She was nice to put some in our workroom today. I tested, it was very good. I just tested. And then, did somebody junior high bring something?
The junior high did,
Oh, what they bring?
the junior high did the robot, and then they brought the corner.
Okay, they brought the corn. I knew they did something too, so I'm gonna, can't forget that. All right. So is that everybody? Guys, don't leave without taking everything. It's all on your back or having the next trip to your place.
We've got one more too, the Ranger Roundup Learning Center.
Oh,
also
I didn't
brought-
know that.
We did, we brought some
they
food.
did.
We had all of our kiddos make y'all some cupcakes. They made the cupcake toppers and they decorated them. So y'all each get a cupcake from Ranger Roundup.
And one thing I'd like to add is, I'd like if one of y'all could come over to the daycare and just kind of observe what we're doing. It's more than just a daycare, we're really integrating curriculum and teaching them, a lot of sensory STEM activities, so it'd be nice if we could see both on the faces there on the paper.
What we're working on, what we're doing.
Yeah, and I do believe we are gonna do a virtual tour. Darren is getting this ready so that we can put that out so everybody in the city can see what's going on today here. Actually, see what it looks like. A lot of people don't know what it looks like on the inside. Yeah, we have that planned within the next week or two.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, ladies.
Mr. Morales, I was going to let you know that Perryton Kinder built some little board survival kits in the little white bags, and be sure and check out the description on the outside. And there's also some cards that our kiddos made for each of you that has your name on them, and just a thank you from Perryton Kinder.
Wow, you guys cleaned up this year.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Rodney, did you ever get one?
I believe that I did. I don't know how to tell exactly.
Last time,
Pete, are you there?
You could talk to us last time.
Oh,
Did
yeah.
you, Richard?
Yes, I could, yeah.
Pete?
I would have discussed you. Yeah, that's true, and I was scared right to go live, but so am I.
The audio, I checked Facebook, the audio seems to be working on Facebook Live.
So they can hear us?
Yes.
So all we have is a problem with Pete.
And there's a video from Wright that.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, Darren worked on that. Oh, here we go.
Hi there, I'm Tiffany Deeks, the principal at Wright Elementary, and I'm here with some of our amazing first grade students, and they are going to show our appreciation for our Perryton ISD School Board by singing the school song. It's never too late to teach our kiddos about Ranger Pride. We celebrate Rover Pride here at Wright Elementary, but we just want to let you know how much we appreciate the time that you sacrifice and the effort and the things that you do for our school board, for our school district. So thank you for serving on the school board. And here is a song for you to enjoy.
What time did teaching the school song then? Okay, Maribel, do you think we left anybody out?
I don't think so.
I got a phone call during that, from Tiffany that said, "Don't forget our video."
Watch it, you're on.
Tell her, no problem.
And you're still working on Pete, maybe?
Well, the sound is all the way up.
He doesn't have a
He did earlier.
sound thing now. He did before. He texted it.
I guess if he can hear it, then there's nothing that he can't vote.
I'm texting him. He says he's got it. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, there we go. We got you, Pete.
We're good. All right. So, thank you. Let the record show that Mr. De Santiago has joined the meeting via Zoom. Okay. And on softball field renovations, we're not going to have a presentation tonight.
No, but when we get to that part, I'm just gonna.
On the agenda, we'll talk about things on the agenda further down, under action items, okay? All right, discussion and possible consideration on annual financial report for the fiscal year ending 8/31/2020. Presenter Dustin Chambers.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I'm Dustin Chambers. I'm with Brown Grooming Company in Amarillo. Like he said, here to present the results of the audit as of your fiscal year end August 31st, 2020. What we're gonna be looking at is the blue bound document that's in front of you. Now keep in mind, with this being as of August 31st, it could vary quite a bit from the information you get from Doug tonight related to your financial statements. Everybody will turn to page 2. This will be on Brown, Graham and Company letterhead. This is the audit opinion. And I got to scan through here. There in the second paragraph talks about management's responsibility, just to make you aware. Management and you as the board are responsible for these financial statements and the related footnotes. There in the next section, auditor responsibility. Our responsibility is to issue an opinion on the financial statements, using audit evidence to form an opinion. If we feel like we've obtained the evidence we need to issue our opinion. And there in the last paragraph, what this basically says is we have, as of August 31st, we have an unmodified or a clean opinion. It's the best opinion that we can give. There are no material misstatements that are required for these financial statements to be in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. There on page 2, there are the first couple of paragraphs just relate to some additional information that support the basic financial statements. And there, the last paragraph, this is an additional audit requirement that we're required to do because you are the Texas government and because you receive more than $750,000 in federal awards. There on the next page, this emphasis of matter. What this is we've been including this in all of our opinions, and it's just to make mention of the COVID pandemic, and that we're unaware of the total effect of it, and these financial statements have not been adjusted with that uncertainty. There on the next page begins the management discussion and analysis. It's pages 6 through 10. What this is, it's just some summarized financial information. It's not audited, and it comes directly from the financial statements. We're not going to go through any of this. We can go ahead and go to page 12. Here on page 12, the statement of net position, this starts the basic financial statements. Keep in mind, the school district has 2 different types of financial statements. This one's called the government-wide, and it's on the full accrual basis of accounting, so it includes all of the assets and all of the liabilities of the district. What we're going to focus on is this first column, the governmental activities. Now that second column that says business type activities, that is your Ranger Roundup Center. There on the first, you'll see the top 2 lines. You have a total of just over $8.5 million in cash and investments, which is up by about $1.4 million from prior year. A few lines down starts the capital asset section. Just keep in mind this is the historical cost less any depreciation. That's not a fair market value of the assets that the district holds. And then down here in the liability section under non-current, you've got due within 1 year and due in more than 1 year. What this represents is your long-term debt. It's all of your bonds and loans payable as of the end of the year. The total there is $14.8 million. Those next 2 lines, net pension liability and net OPEB liability, these aren't liabilities that are currently due. They're just an estimate that the state auditor's office puts out. What that means is that if every single employee of the district retired today, that would be the liability. You're not going to get an invoice, but I will make it known that the district has made all of their required contributions to the pension and OPEB plan. There in the bottom section, net position. Total net position for the government of $16.143 million with unrestricted of negative $9,886. Now that is directly related to the pension and OPEB liabilities. Had those not be there, we could add that $14.5 million to that number to show you a more accurate representation of the net position of the government. It's not restricted.
Most schools have that.
Most schools, yes.
All of them.
I would say 60 to 70% of our school districts have a negative unrestricted net position. The ones that don't are the ones that don't have any debt. Because that number up there, your net investment in capital assets, includes all of your fixed assets less any related debt. Anybody have any questions on that statement? All right, we'll turn the page. Statement of activities, this is consistent with an income statement. I'll just point you to a couple of amounts here in the first column under expenses down there at the bottom for the primary government. Total expenses of $28.326 million. This is the cost of the services that the district provided for the year. And there on the next page, down there, third line from the bottom, the total change in that position was an increase of $1.069 million. Compared to last year, that's actually a decrease of $3.6 million, but if you'll keep in mind, last year there was a very significant amount of insurance recovery that came in related to the roof damage that kind of inflated that number. Any questions on that statement? Okay, here we're going to go to page 16. Okay, this balance sheet, this starts the fund financial statements. It's a different representation. It's on the modified accrual basis, or it's similar to what you would call a budgetary basis. It does not include the capital assets of the district, and it does not include any of the debt. We are going to focus on the general fund, the first column there. First couple of lines, total cash and investments of $7.8 million, which represents 86% of your total assets are held in cash and investments. Total liabilities of $1.4 million, and we'll get down there to the bottom. Unassigned fund balance, which means that's unrestricted. It can be used for whatever purpose. Total of $6.750 million. And as an operating measure, that would cover 3.9 months of operating expense for the district. So when we're looking at that, we're looking at, for a district, an average of 3 to 6 months of operating expenditures, so y'all are just right in line with that. Any questions on that statement? All right, the next page, this is just a reconciliation of items that we had to adjust to go from the fund financial statements to the government-wide statements that we looked at there on the first page. We're not going to go through any of that in detail. Go over to page 19. Statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. If you look there, 4 lines down, your total revenues of the general fund of $22.2 million. That is an increase of $2.5 million when compared to last year, and the majority of that is directly related to your state funding. They're about 3/4 of the way down the page. You can see you have an excess of revenues over expenditures for the year of $1,324,000. Comparatively speaking, last year that was a decrease of $811,000. There in the next section, you can see the $606,000. That's the energy saving loan that the district entered into during the year. For these financial statements, that's shown as an expenditure. You get to a net change in fund balance of $2.098 million. Any questions on that statement? All right, the next page is also an additional reconciliation to convert from the fund to the government-wide basis. We're not going to go through any of that. So we'll go to page 21. Statement of net position for the proprietary fund. Your proprietary fund is your Ranger Roundup. It's once again, from the first statement we looked at, this is shown on a full accrual basis of accounting. A couple of things I'll kind of draw your attention to. The second line down, due from other governments of $111,000. That's the amount that is due from the hospital to help subsidize the loss of the Ranger Roundup. And there on the second section, the middle line of $120,000, the majority of that is related to the general fund subsidizing the loss related to the Ranger Roundup. Next page, statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position. This is the income statement of the Ranger Roundup. You'll see total operating revenues of $197,000. Less total operating expenses of $421,000 for a decrease or an operating loss of $223,000. There at the bottom, there's no change in that position because that entire loss is subsidized by both the general fund and Officer General Hospital. Any questions on those two statements? Next page is the cash flow statement of the Ranger Roundup. This is just an alternate representation of the income statement. We're not gonna go through anything on this. There's nothing of any significance. Next page, page 24. This is a separate statement because these aren't the district's funds. That first column there, the private purpose trust funds, that makes up the scholarships that the district has and is holding funds for. And there the second column is the student activity funds. These can't be used for any operations of the district. That's why they're separate. Okay, from here we can go to page 27. This starts the notes of the financial statement. This first note is multiple pages. It's a carry forward from year to year. If y'all had any significant accounting policy changes, they would be mentioned here, but you didn't. So we're not going to go through any of these. We go ahead and skip ahead to page 35. There at the top, note 2E, or capital asset activity. This just shows you the changes in your capital assets for the year. And there, if you look down at the bottom, there's your total depreciation expense. It was broken down by function. Okay, from here we can go to page 39. Note 2G, this is also a breakdown of all of the debt that the district currently has. So you can see total bonds and loans outstanding as of the end of the year of $13,894,000. If you look at that table down there at the very bottom of the page, that's the debt service requirements to pay those bonds off over the next multiple years. Okay, the next several pages are going to be some required disclosures related to the pension and the Opec plans. We can go ahead and jump to page 46. One thing I did want to make you aware of, there in the middle, you can see $6.253 million that's the district share of that pension liability. But just below that, the state also is required to contribute $11.1 million to cover that pension liability. And from here, we can go to page 51. And then with the OPEB plan, same thing, down there about 3/4 of the way down. The district's portion is $8.273 million, but the state's portion is $10.993 million. Okay, from here we can go to page 61. There in the middle, note B, that's just another discussion related to the COVID pandemic. We talk about the school closure and things like that here, but once again, we state the potential impacts unknown, and these financial statements weren't adjusted with any effects of any uncertainty. Okay, that'll close up the notes and the financial statements. Does anybody have any questions on those so far?
One quick question back on page 35.
Okay.
On depreciation expense on the bottom.
Yes, sir.
Normally, I would assume depreciation on a hard asset. How is depreciation calculated on things like instruction and school leadership, and what?
A lot of that stuff is allocated based on where it's used. So let's say it's something that is an improvement to a school or a school building. That's going to get allocated amongst multiple different functions based on, a lot of the times, expenditures for the district as a whole. So it's not necessarily like we upgrade all of the lighting. That's not just going to affect one thing. That's going to affect instruction, it could be general administration, it could be maintenance and operation, it could be lots of different functions. And so a lot of those are just
based on percentages.
Absolutely, yeah. And it stays consistent with your district based on the, like, if you were to buy lighting again in the future in 15 years or whatever, you're going to see a consistent allocation of that depreciation unless something drastically changes.
Okay, makes sense.
Anybody else? Okay, here we can go to page 63. Here's your budget versus actual comparison for your general fund. One thing I'll mention on this, if you look there, the middle section on the very right side, with all of those numbers being positive, that means y'all came in under budget on your actual expenditures for the year. We didn't have any negative budget variances related to your expenditures.
A little disappointed, Doug, that we missed estimating principal and long-term debt by $2.
Rounding.
That could be rounding. So if we look at the second column versus the third column, about 3/4 of the way down under excess, y'all, your amended budget was a budget for a loss of $938,000, but you actually reported a gain of $1.3 million. So a pretty significant turnaround, $2.2 million from what the amended budget represented. Any questions there?
Of course, we budget these other sources and uses to come up to a balanced budget. Initially, what we had last year. If you add those in, the other sources and uses less the excess deficiency, those zero out. So it was a balanced budget initially.
Absolutely.
The same as what we did this year too.
Yeah, that bottom section, the other financing and sources, that's going to be related to any sales of fixed assets, any, like the loan, the lighting loan is included down here, and then any transfers in or out, whether it's to subsidize the operation of the Ranger Roundup or one of the federal funds or something like that. That's where all these are included down here. Thanks, Doug. All right, the next multiple pages are going to be some more schedules related to the pension and OPEB that we're not going to look at, as well as the combining schedules, which it's a detail of all your federal and state grant funds. I don't think that we need to look at any of that in any detail. So here we can go to page 86. This starts the section. There's a few required TEA schedules. Here's one. This is to show you a roll forward of your property tax receivable. So the first column there is the receivable that you had at the end of the year of $524,000. You've got your levy and your total tax collections of just over $13.1 million, which represents approximately 95% of your total current year levy, which is right in line. You know, we've actually seen several of our districts this year, their collections weren't quite as good as they've been in the past. And I'm assuming with the pandemic and other matters that's a pretty common thing. One thing I will that kind of sticks out, there, the adjustments column, there's an increase of $668,000. I talked to the appraisal district, and what that had to do, there was a supplemental levy that came in related to some mineral leases that occurred after the certification of the tax roll. So that's why that amount's there.
Look at the ending tax roll at 8/31/20. For the current roll, $769,000 compared to the ending tax roll for the prior year. For the prior year, $222,000. So that means there's $500,000 of taxes that we normally would have collected. That the economic conditions, we did not collect those.
Absolutely.
And that comes into play significantly.
It's not a dead issue though. You're going to keep pursuing this. I mean, you're saying it hasn't rolled in at this point.
Oh, not necessarily. This is as of August 31st. So
they go into the delinquent roll, which the appraisal district pursues those pretty aggressively with tax collection attorneys. But that's an indication to me of the economy. People cannot afford to pay their taxes, so they're letting them slide. Don't you think so?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and like I said, this is something we're consistently seeing across all the school districts that we audit in the Panhandle.
And some districts are having to borrow money to pay payroll because of it, I believe. We got wind of one, sort of southwest of us that's in that situation.
Okay, here on the next page, the next required schedule is, this is your budget versus actual for your child nutrition program. Once again, expenditures were $248,000 less than what we budgeted, so no issues there. And there on the next page, budget versus actual for your debt service fund. Same thing here in total, expenditures were less than what was budgeted. We do have $100 deficit in bond issuance costs and fees. You know, that's extremely immaterial, no issues with anything on that. The important thing there is that in total. Okay, here if we can go to page 90. This starts the compliance section. There's a couple of letters here. We're not going to look at a whole lot of this in detail, but what this is these are tests of compliance. We don't test controls, but we're required to report on the compliance of laws and regulations, and we also perform a single audit on your district because you receive more than $750,000 in federal funding in the year. Just to let you know, both of these letters state that we don't have any material issues. We don't have any findings this year. We did have a couple of findings last year, but we went and retested those again, and everything was fine with that. So everything this year is clean. We don't have anything to report. The two programs that we did do the single audit on this year were the food service program and for IDEA, special education program. That'll wrap up the financial statements and audit report unless anybody has any other questions. Okay, we've got a couple of letters here. The first one we're going to look at is the thinner one on Brown Graham Company letterhead. They might be stuck in the back of your binder with all the robots. I put them there in the back. I know we just talked about not having any findings for the current year, but when we're doing our audit, if we come across things that we think that we can make some recommendations to strengthen internal controls, we'd like to communicate those. This letter is what's called a management letter. This doesn't have any effect on the financial statements or the audit report. It's not an issue, but this is just a couple of areas that we feel like some internal controls could be strengthened. It's not that we'll review these next year. There's no corrective action plan or anything like that's required. If they're on the first page, what this has to do with is there's several state mandated programs for some funding that the district gets, and the TA requires that the district expend a certain percentage of that money. So for the early education allotment, which was a new allotment this year, the district got $383,000, but had only expended $153,000. Now, there's several other things that go into this. You can use other program intent codes to help allocate some of this. And to be completely honest with you, there's really no guidance from the TEA or Region 16 that says what's ever going to happen with this. You get to apply things like a 3-year average, where if you overspent last year, it would apply against this. But for as long as they've been having these state mandated programs that I've been involved in, there's never been one question ever from the TEA about, we need the money back, or you need to spend it, or you're going to have to send it back. But we like to include this here just to make you aware of the program.
That was a brand new.
It was. Yep, that one was brand new this year.
There's really no guidance on out there that I could find to see exactly what is allowable.
Nope, they give you all this money, they give you $383,000, and then tell you got to spend all of it.
That's for instigating early full day pre-K and early childhood education is like pre-K to
third grade. Yep, absolutely.
And there are enough salaries that we do that could be allocated to that and cover that, but there was no guidance on whether we could do that or not.
So, our recommendation would be on this just to continue to look into that, see if we can find some guidance. We can definitely help with that too. The next page has to deal with the student activity funds. We test multiple student activity funds all throughout the district, and what this basically says is that of all the transactions we pick, the one thing that we're seeing is there's not a whole lot of consistency between the campuses. Some of the deposit forms, check request forms, and things like that are different. There where some of them might have one signature and some might have two. And what we're recommending here is that the district put some policy in place to where all of the student activity funds are subjected to the same policies. Typically, we recommend the same policies of the district's funds. This has gotten better and better every single year since we've started looking at this. And I've talked with some of Doug's personnel and with Doug about this, and I think there's some things already in the works trying to get some consistency across the campuses. Any questions there? Okay, the last letter, this is just a required communication, and it's basically a summary of how the audit went. There, the first page deals with responsibilities like we talked about with the audit report. We won't go through any of that. There on the second page, the top section, it states that myself and our firm, we complied with all independence requirements so that we could perform the audit on the school district. The next section has to deal with significant accounting policies. If there have been any changes, we would document these there, but there have not been any. And then we list the significant accounting estimates of the district there on the next section. On the next page, financial statement disclosures. This is what we felt were the significant financial statement disclosures. We talked about the majority of these earlier. In the next section, we didn't encounter any significant difficulties in dealing with management relating to the performance of the audit. The next section has to deal with misstatements or adjustments. We did have to post a few audit adjustments, none of which appeared to materially affect the financial statements. And then Doug and his staff also provided us with multiple audit adjustments because once we get the audit file, we ask them not to post anything else. So if they come across something financial statement wise, they'll give us the entry to post. So all of these are attached to the back of this letter, as well as all of the fund government-wide adjustments. These aren't something that is going to be posted to the district books. These are just all the adjustments to convert from the fund basis to the government-wide financial statements. There at the bottom of that page, we didn't have any disagreements with management related to any accounting matters. Okay, there on the next page, top section, representations from management. We obtained a letter from Doug and Carol basically saying that they're not aware of anything that materially affects the financial statements or anything that has occurred since the end of the year that should be disclosed, and that they provided us with all the information we requested. And we've got a couple of other paragraphs there, and then talk once again, it's just a rehash of the COVID-19 pandemic from the opinion. That will conclude my presentation unless anybody else has any questions. Thank you. We'd like to thank Doug and all of his staff for all of their hard work. You know, we did it a little different this year. We did a lot of the stuff remotely. I think I was the only one here for several of the days, and they put a lot of extra work in, and we sure do appreciate it, and did such a great job this year.
Doug, we need to approve this.
Yeah, we need a motion to accept the audit.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the audit as presented. Any further discussion? All in favor? Okay. All opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
You got something from him, son?
Yeah, he'll take this back and then we'll get the PDF version just to you guys. So you can sign right here under board president.
We appreciate you coming.
All right, thank y'all for having me.
Thank you
very much.
Okay, this board will now adjourn into executive session pursuant to the following sections of the Texas Open Meeting Act 551.074, discussing personnel.
There you go, thanks, Dustin.
Appreciate it. Good to see you.
Meeting back to order. Let the record show that Mr. De Santiago is joining us by Zoom. He is still with us. All right. Let's see, moving on to public meeting for Texas Academic Performance Report. Dr. Wright.
Okay, so we are going to be reporting on the paper report, which is our Texas Academic Performance Report. And you did get the full slides, I believe, on Friday with an update on, with page numbers on Monday. And I have condensed it to where we have the highlights of the paper report. So we do have the paper report already published up on our website for the public viewing. So this is going to be the highlights of that paper report with the charts that are included in the slides. So on this first slide, going on to page 2, we do have an accountability, our 2020 accountability rating. We did not get rated. None of the districts in the state of Texas were rated, and it was declared a state of disaster due to the pandemic in the spring semester, and the students were not able to participate in the STAR state assessments. For the 2020 special education determination status, we did meet the requirements for special education. And going on to that next slide, the reports that I'm going to be going over are the content areas for 3rd grade all the way up through high school, the EOCs. So going into that next slide, you'll see the charts. And this gives you the report for approaches, meets, and masters for 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade. So you'll see the percentages here. Approaches, meets minimum standards for the state. On meets, it is the on grade level, and the masters is above grade level. I'll give you a moment to look at those.
Trend lines telling us anything?
This is for the reading across all of these grade levels, and we are using it as a strength as far as where are our strengths, which grade levels have the strength, and then also we have the target for the meets level. So as I've reported in the past, in order to be an A district, we have to have the percentages divided out from approaches at 90%, meets 60%, and then the masters at 30%. So we're close on some as we continue to monitor the progress. We have had fall benchmarks already. We are seeing a lot of gaps due to the pandemic and the lack of the teaching with the students not being in school in the last semester, or I'm sorry, in the spring semester for 2020. So we are monitoring and making sure that we're adjusting the instruction as well with reteaching and checking for the progress in this semester when they do provide the next benchmark.
And guys, we have done in-service with all our staff that really approaches the blue line you're seeing that goes up so high. That is not going to be important to us. It's going to be the orange line or red line and the green line. For us to really improve, the approaches needs to come down and the other ones need to go up.
Meaning we add to the other two.
Right.
Let's be clear.
Yeah, we need to add to the other two.
So
And are they weighted differently, Dr. Rock? Do we get weight?
They do grade differently based on the grade level and the content area. So the number of questions that the students have to answer correctly for reading may be different for the ones for math.
So if we bring the other two groups up, it'll have a higher impact.
Say again, Pete?
Is that correct?
Yes,
A week, okay.
yes. And when you look at these numbers, of course, the 44%, so if we're looking at the math, slide 12, the 44%, those students are also included in the approaches. So we have 78%, and then those students, 44% of those students are at the meets, and then 20% at the, so all of them are included in the approaches. So that's how they break those out. So for the math, we have the percentages, the bar graph for grades 3rd through 8th grade, approaches, meets, and masters. And as we are taking the benchmarks, we are also looking at the quintiles, and we've actually increased the percentage that they would need to, that they require in order to meet the passing standards. So they are setting those expectations a little higher so that we are meeting those targets that we've set. Going to the next slide, this is for writing, and we are assessed for writing in grade 4 and grade 7. And these are the graphs for approaches, meets, and masters. And then also keep in mind that this is the assessment that was given in the 2018-19 school year. So it's the 19 scores that have carried over, given that we didn't get to test last year at the end of the semester. So for the writing, we have a little bit of work to do, and we are focusing on creating that alignment and starting to have discussions of the systems that we need to have in place from the elementary and through intermediate and going into the junior high. For science, we test at grade 5 and grade 8. And the bar graph shows the approaches, meets, and masters as well. And moving into social studies, this is assessed at 8th grade. So this shows your approaches, meets, and masters, and we are continuing to work on improving these targets as well at the junior high level. Moving into the end of course, the high school, assessments are taken for English 1, English 2, Algebra 1, Biology, and U.S. History. This is slide 28. And these are the reports or the scores, the percentages for approaches, meets, and masters as well. So we definitely have some work to do, moving more into the meets and the masters category. For STAR progress, the expectation is for the students to make at least 1 year's growth. So if they have scored at an approaches, the 1 year's growth is for the following year for them to be at meets. If they scored at meets, the growth is for them to be at masters. So this shows the STAR progress for grades 4 through 8.
These are measured numbers?
These are percentages. Yes. And this one actually shows comparison from the state to our Region 16 area and then the district. So then you can compare those, and I went ahead and included a chart with the percentages at the bottom there. So you'll see in 5th grade reading and math, we are above the state and the Region 16 area.
But, you know, with your comment, Richard, you know, we want to be the best in the Panhandle. If we're going to be the best, we got to beat Region 16. So that bar needs to be above Region 16.
Yeah, this one's progress as opposed to an actual measurement.
Correct, the actual outcomes, yes. So it's a little bit different.
Yes.
Moving into the next slide, this is the bilingual education and the ESL. Given that our bilingual program, our dual language program is not at the tested grades, as of this report, then it's reporting the ESL, all of the students that were receiving the English as a second language for that program. This is also a comparison of the state, the region, and the district. So also targeting the ESL programs that we currently have, and we've done quite a bit of staff development in this area as well. Not only this year, but in past years as well. Oh, there it is. Okay. Okay, so this is longitudinal rate, and it's measuring more the last 6 years actually. And this is the different graduation plans. So on the first one, it's the recommended high school plan, and that is no longer being tracked. So when we have this report, the students that have already graduated that are on this report, they are no longer going to be tracked because now the students aren't on a different plan. So then we're going to be moving into the foundational graduation plans, and then the E stands for endorsement. So we're looking at the foundation high school program with an endorsement, and then we're also looking at the foundation high school program with the distinguished level of achievement. So this is a comparison of the different classes. The class of 2018 and the class of 2019. If we look at that next page, this is the annual rate, and this is a comparison of the class of 18 and the class of 19 with the same the same graduation plans. But you'll also see that we had an increase, so our trend was an increase from 1 year to the next in all of the subpopulations. So we hope to continue that trend as well in this year as we get the reports. Moving into college career military ready annual graduates. This chart shows a comparison between state, Region 16, and the district. So we do have some work to do here as well at the high school level. On the next page, we have the approved industry-based certification annual graduates. And as you'll see, these percentages are very low as well, and we have already started looking at some of our certification programs, what we currently have, and what we can offer as well. We've had meetings with the high school, the CTE program, and also with community members to discuss certification programs that we can offer for our high school students. On the next one is the coherent sequence coursework aligned with the industry-based certification. These are the annual graduates for the class of 18 and the class of 19, and this one is a comparison of the different subpopulations. So we definitely saw a growth from one class to the next class. The next slide shows the subpopulations on the Texas Success Initiative Assessment, which is the TSI, and the HB3 goal that you approved last month. This is the assessment that the students are administered. This year, we have any of the students that had not met that requirement in the junior and senior class have been assessed in reading, and I'll be giving you the report of that progress measure in my curriculum report. But this assesses the reading and the math and shows where we are with students meeting the expectation for both subjects, the reading and the math together. The TSI is an assessment that's required when the students are moving into the college and university.
Yeah.
That is a required exam.
Mr. Sproul, changed some stuff that haven't happened yet. I think he required all juniors to take this test this past year, so that's the first, that's happening. So we're gonna start getting better data on this. Didn't have much data prior.
On the next slide, we have the SAT, and ACT results that the students that met at or above the criteria. And this is a comparison of the classes of 2018 and 2019, and these are the subpopulations and how they're performing. On the following, we have the graduates enrolled in a Texas institution of higher education, so beyond high school. And if we look at the all, it does show the subpopulations. If we look at the all, we are seeing a decrease in the number of students that are continuing their education past the high school. So therefore, we are looking at certification programs, given that we are seeing the data that our students are not, we have less than 50% that are pursuing continuing education at the college level.
They go to Oklahoma.
That could be true, yeah, so they're not tracking it for, they're only tracking it for Texas.
That was a punchline.
I can't believe it.
On the following one, it shows the graduates that enrolled beyond high school, and they completed their first year without remediation. So that means that they were not in the remedial classes going into their freshman year for math or for reading. So definitely wanting to improve these outcomes as well.
And those are actual numbers.
Those are percentages. Then we go into some just district demographic information, our ethnic distribution of students. We have, on that report, we had 72% Hispanic and 26% white as far as our students. The next one shows the economically disadvantaged. At that time, we had 58% that showed economically disadvantaged on free or reduced meals, and then 42% non-educationally disadvantaged. As far as our professional staff, we have 49% of the professional staff population are teachers. And then you see the breakdown, 5% professional support, 2% campus administration, and 1% central administration. Our ethnic distribution of teachers. I'm going to go over the two highest ones. We are at 83% white and 15% Hispanic. On our PISD financial report, this was currently not available through TA. This is the link. When I went to pull it up, it did show that the report was not currently available for the spring 2021 semester, and Mr. Carl was saying that they're just updating and sending the information currently.
Yeah, we made it, we adjusting error messages and stuff, and we got those corrected, and we'll bring up a submission on that here in the next week. Which that's the due date.
And then we're also required to report violent and criminal incidents that are reported through our discipline program. And if you look on the next slide, it shows the categories, and after pulling the report, we did not have any incidents reported. They were at 0% for all of these categories. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Dr. Rupp. Okay, moving on to Superintendent's report.
I think with all y'all, my meetings with y'all, we looked at trustees' hours and, what trainings you still have. A lot of those are online. You can still get them. January, end of January is supposed to be the deadline, then we're deficient. We're probably gonna do pretty quick here a team of 8 training so that we can get those hours and it'll be an evening, when y'all think y'all can come in and do it. It's a 3-hour training. We wanna focus on, and in my opinion, we wanna focus on our vision, our mission, and our core beliefs. I think our vision for this district has been the same one for the last 20 years or something. Maybe time to upgrade that and relook at it. COVID definitely made me rethink kind of how we want to do stuff. So anyway, we need to find the time to get that training in, team of 8 training sometime. So
Well, you just pick the training and throw some dates out there.
and then see who else because I really think they want 8. That's what they call it.
On the team of 8, they always want 8.
They always want 8. They don't want 75 or whatever. So we'll try and find the date that everybody else can make. Yeah. Maribel, you can start this merry-go-round here.
You gave me a few dates that the trainer was available at some.
Yeah, I did give you some dates. Do you remember those?
Yes, I do.
27?
I'll send you that.
Okay.
Well, Monday.
Okay.
Well,
Anyway, everybody has, I think, what training hours that they have. COVID-19 vaccines, guys, we're still working with people as they get the vaccines available. And we have a list already of teachers who wanted the shot. And we're trying to be the facilitator of getting our teachers shots if they want. It's not mandatory. It's not even strongly suggested. We're just saying if you want a vaccine, we'll help you set up the time to go get them. And Maryville kind of doing that. How many do we have on the list?
Right now we have 75 pending staff members that want to get the vaccine.
And how many have gotten that?
I know OGH, I was able to get a total of 35 scheduled, and then with Dr. Mann, 17.
Okay, good. Good. And we're ready for Ken? It is a straight bill this time.
Okay. Yep, okay. All right, on campus reports. Lady Payne Martin, do we have anything to add to the report?
No, sir, it's all there.
All righty, thank you. Okay. And Perryton High School, was Mr. Sproul here?
Mr. Sproul is in Houston taking care of his parents right now, but they're big report.
Okay. All right. Perryton Junior High, is Mr. Garcia still here?
Yes.
There he is.
Anything to add?
All good.
All right. Wright Elementary, is Ms. Beach still here?
Yes.
She was. Very good.
All good. All right. Perryton Kinder, get your hand down. Mr. Felix, do you have anything to add to your report?
No, sir.
Oh, all right.
I was told by Mr. Cates that it's all good.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, there's a surprise, yeah.
Yeah, and that's right, Mr. Cates didn't get a written report in, so I talked to him yesterday, he told me it was all good though, so. All righty, athletics.
I can't even remember what is in that. We do have a powerlifting meeting here Saturday. I don't know if that's there. No, it's not. And there'll be quite a few people in the ringerette on that. We have teams from, we actually have Denton Geyer and Argyle, because they can't find any meets down there, so they asked if they could get in. We were able to still be within COVID protocols and get them in, so that's pretty impressive. If they're willing to
I know
drive
you're
that far.
feeling pretty good crew on that, we're doing open out.
Yeah, so we have that, and then baseball starts tomorrow. So softball's already been going on.
Righty.
But I got a lot of other things, but y'all don't want to hear it right now.
All right. All right, your turn, Mr. Throgmorton. Do you have anything to add to your report?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right. Food service, Ms. Wilson here? Yep, I'm sorry.
Good. The amount's looking a little bit better every month, so we're a little more excited and pleased with that, so.
Right. Mr. Kemp?
Nothing bad.
Ranger Roundup, they've left, haven't they?
I do have an update on that. She had a typo on it. She currently does have 48 children instead of 28.
Oh, that's good.
Sounds better, doesn't it?
I saw the 28 and I was thinking, what happened?
I know, I caught her too, and said, she's like, oh no, that's a typo.
Well, I noticed that when I read the report, I thought, dang, they doubled up over the Christmas break, because it went from 28 to 56.
So that was a typo.
Okay. Alrighty. Technology. We good?
Oh, I thought that was what I was answering.
Yeah, I think I called on you when I meant to call on Darren, so that's.
Still good.
That was on me, Gary.
And on Darren, like I say, guys, he's gonna do a virtual tour of the Ranger Roundup, so the community and everybody else can see kind of what's going on over there.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. There's campus reports, director's report, and on to the curriculum and instruction report.
So the only report that I have, well, I submitted the report for my team, but the only other thing that I wanted to make sure that there was no questions was on the board outcomes for the progress monitoring of our HB3 goals for the CCMR. So we have the fall information for the TSI that the students have been administered already, and you see, I'm sorry, on page 51.
Yeah, page 51.
We set the target and it was approved at 70%. And if you see the class of 2021, which is our seniors, they are at 67 already, and then on the reading, and then 86 on the writing. For our class of 2022, the juniors, we're at 45% on reading, and we were very pleased to see they were at 71% on the writing, so that was exciting to see. So they're well on their way to be meeting that. We are missing the math, but the math was broken up to be administered this semester. So we will be having the scores for that, and we'll give you that progress as well. It does measure both, the language arts and the math. And then I gave you the breakdown on towards the middle, towards the bottom there. That was 81 out of 121 students for the senior class on the reading portion, and 67%, which is the 67%. And in the class of the 2022 for the juniors, it was 77 out of 141 students. So it gives you not just a percentage, but an actual number of students that met the percentage.
All right. Anything else?
That was it.
All right. Thank you. Any questions for Dr. Rock? On to the CFO's report, Mr. Call.
First is our disbursements report. I believe I'm starting on page 52, 53. The computer checks written in the month of January. There's a couple pages of those. And then starting on page 55, those is the complete list of computer checks for the month of January. There's 12 pages of those. Those other ones must have been our pending checks, the first track. And then the disbursements list for the month of December, complete list of those is on page 69. And there's 20 pages of those. So, as always, if y'all have a question or comment, just give me a heads up and we'll dig into anything on there at all, no problems. Our financial report, cash position, book balance reports start on page 8990. Our total cash position at the end of December was $653,815 in those various accounts there. Our general operating funds of Reconcile balance 7,956,163, includes CDs of 7,665,000, and that schedule's on page 92. Interest and sinking funds, 450,055, includes CDs of 450,053, and that schedule is on page 94. Cafeteria funds, $27,245. Special education fund, $266,895. Activity accounts, $396,171, includes CDs of $335,992.60, and their schedule of those CDs is on page 98. Ranger roundup, $10,440. Capital projects fund, CDs of $81,117. In our financial statements for 4 months ended December 31st, this is our general operating fund. Our revenues of $7,226,000, our expenditures of $7,530,000. Including in that number is our capital outlay number. You can see going across there that we spent so far $68,315, and that schedule is on page 103 there, the detail of that. You might notice that we have unallocated capital projects of $262,000 that we started the year, and there's been some slight changes in that, but that's the remaining balance there. And then the financial statement, it looks like it's sort of a duplicate. It's a duplicate of the page 104 is a duplicate of page 102. And the financial statements on the financial statement format again, our revenues of $7,181,052 of the current month, and $2 million for the current month, and $7 million for year to date. Out of our total estimated revenues of $22,127. The same amount on our expenditures. We've expended $7,530,000 out of our $22,127,893. We have not amended our budget yet this year, so that's still our original budget that we adopted in August. Food service funds, revenues of $217,542, expenditures of $383,267. Same numbers on financial statement formats there. And we still haven't, the summer feeding program is where last year, we had to count for the COVID program feeding deal that we started back in March of 2020 through the summer, and then our summer program, but so far all the transactions are going through our regular food service program and not in this fund 242. So this is included in here, but it's showing zero numbers there so far.
We also will continue with SSO in June. We'll just keep on going.
SSO, what's that acronym stand for?
Summer Seamless Option. Woo! That's a test. But what we're doing right now, we're going to continue to do, because there was no reason to switch it for 1 month. I talked to Region 16, and they said, no, just keep doing what you're doing. So, and we will have a review on that. Another review on that. And
you're in the middle of a review right now, aren't you?
A procurement review.
Procurement review. Lots of regulation, aren't there? Debt service fund revenues of $79,143, no expenditures yet. We'll be making our semi-annual debt service payment of our interest on February 15th, so that'll be coming up, less than a month away. Ranger Roundup revenues of $87,732, expenditures of $155,312. And I'm giving you, like I've been doing since we started, I'm giving you the detail of those, the revenues, and then the detail of the expenses, so you can see those. I think we're off to a better start than we did last year. So obviously, enrollment has a huge part of the Ranger Roundup, just like it is in our school district. So the more students we have, the better we'll do financially. And, we had a very productive meeting with the hospital chief administrator the other day, and he's okay. He's fine with everything. So I think we're all on the same page for the need for the Ranger Roundup, and he understands what it's done for them and everything. So Mr. Morales, you might say that he's on board with us.
Yeah, he's on board with us. There's a little miscommunication with his board and then keeping up with what was actually happening monthly, I think. And so I think they got a little sticker shock there, but he understands what we're trying to do to build up that enrollment, so that neither one of us has this burden of liability.
Yeah, we had sent monthly reports to their CFO over there, but I don't think it got all communicated to all the board members possibly. So.
Is there a way to open this up a little bit, and it were any more besides Seaboard and the hospital?
Well, we've talked to somebody else. We won't mention it, but we have talked to another entity in town.
It's getting better, I agree with you, but I think the fuse is short.
Oh, yeah, it really is. I mean, this is taxpayers' money, and we've got to be real careful with what we do with it and be good stewards of it. So, everybody's blaming everything on COVID. We didn't get a good start this year because of it, but if we ever have a normal start to the school year, I think our numbers will be up. And we need to rebrand there. It's not just a daycare, it's going to be a learning center, and we're getting kids ready for pre-K and stuff. So we need to really work on this. I'm just going to say it's going to take a lot of work, but I think we can get it to the point where it's not losing quite as much money every year.
I like that idea. I think the rebrand is probably would be a good idea.
Yeah, I think rebrand it, and I'm real happy with the administrators out there now. I mean, she's doing a great job now, and I think the people that are out there now are going to start talking good about it, and that'll work. I mean, that's what it's going to take. I know the hospital only had 2 employees, which, I mean, that's not what they were paying, that's not enough, but we're redoing the hours, so that we can accommodate their employees better than what we have. And we're also extending the hours, so if Seaboard comes on, it fits their shifts also. I mean, we weren't doing things, we didn't start off real well, guys, but trying to make it good for parents and easy for parents, and now we're doing that.
Good financials all the way through here. The only thing that sticks up is sort of funds for it. So if there's another organization here, or a couple of people here in town that we could add to it.
Right, and then,
simply.
yeah, we talked to the city and the mayor also on this, and they had some ideas of possibly finding some other funding, some other places to help supplement that.
Yes, I think attendance is still key, and it's needed. I think it's needed.
And I just want to clarify too, that the partnerships with the hospital and the possible Seaboard, it's not just open for those entities, it's open to the public. So it's not just the ones that we're partnering with. It is their first come, first serve, and then it's open for any other spaces that are available for the public as well.
I think the community knows that.
Well, I think that's part of that rebranding and doing all that stuff.
I just don't think, people I talk to, they are not aware of that. And virtually to a person, the people that I've said that to have been surprised.
And, even at capacity, guys, we're thinking 80 students at capacity, because they have limits. If you have small infants, it's 1 to 4, that hurts you. The higher kids, your numbers aren't so much against, an instructor, and then you get more money, so, she's even started an afternoon program, I think. to
An after-school,
generate-
before-
After-school program,
before
to
and
generate
after-school
some more.
program.
So we're working at it, it's not gonna be an easy thing, but I think within a year, hopefully, we're not seeing these same numbers.
Next is our capital projects fund. The CDs, no transactions there, but the CD is 81,000 there at the end of the year, so. Next is on page 124, I've given you an announcement that I've been thinking about for a long time, that I think it's time for me to look towards retirement. And my plans right now are to retire the end of December of this year, 2021, thereabouts, on or about that date. So we've got a great staff with a lot of experience in our business office. Every single one of them I've hired and trained, and they do a great job, and I'm gonna miss them a lot. And I've enjoyed, I've worked with 7 superintendents over the years. Goes back to 2004, and I don't know how many board members. All y'all are newer than 2004, I know, but it's been a lot of people. So, but it's time to think about moving on. So I appreciate everything.
I think I was on the board when we hired you.
You were there round 1, weren't you? Robin
I don't
Atkins.
regret it yet, though.
Well, there you go. There you go. Robin told me, he said, we will advertise for a new superintendent, we'll have 50 applicants. A new head football coach will get 50 applicants, and he said, we're lucky to get 1 CFO applicant. So it's a commodity that's scarce, I think, out there. The accounting profession itself there's scarcity, there's not enough out there. That's what they're saying. So,
Doug, I wanna thank you personally for what you've done for this district all your years you serving. The audit today is evidence of the good job that you do, keeping up with our money and making sure we're spending it correctly.
Thank you.
And we're gonna miss you. And Doug did tell me, guys, that when he said this in my meeting, my heart about fell out to him. Went, oh Lord, what am I gonna do now? He's gonna be still here in town, so he can help us. If we hire a new one, he'll be here to assist and give advice to. And I'm glad that he did tell us with this much time, so that we do have time to start looking.
Yeah, I'm gonna still be around. I have an accounting practice also, if y'all didn't know, but I'm gonna still have that office also. So give me a lot more flexibility.
I know you were thinking about someone showed up at that first meeting with the mask, and you're wearing a crown roll bag.
There you go. There you go. Actually, that wasn't a very good mask, as it turned out. Well, thank you all very much. I've got, I think over the years, there's been some highs and lows, obviously, but overall, it's been a great ride, basically. Thank y'all for y'all's support. Appreciate it.
You will be missed, and,
You had hair when you started, right?
You had hair when you started.
Pardon?
You had hair when you started, right?
You had hair when you started.
Well, I got a little less hair. But, I think if you look around the room, that's a requirement for being here. Except for maybe one.
he got nude with all his hair.
Guys, just put this out, that's a very important position in our district. The money, if that stuff ever goes south, or you lose track of it and everything, it just makes things so much difficult for everybody else. So it's gonna be hard to find somebody with school knowledge, school finance knowledge. But we're gonna start putting our filters out as soon as we can, and we'll talk about, kinda how we're gonna start trying to fill this position.
In over 18 years, I don't think there's ever been a financial issue or an issue from our area that's ever gone to to the board level for any kind of review or complaint or anything. So I'm proud of that.
Absolutely, should be.
Last but not least is our enrollment report.
Yeah.
On page 125, our enrollment as of January 2088 compared to a year ago 2,198 compared to opening day of 2105.
Got something I always try to watch on there is, last year, we stayed pretty consistent, when compared to the previous year. And if you look at this year, we started out in August 2174, 2105, so we were down about 69 students. And, when you look at, January 2198 to 2088, we're down about 110 students. And if you look across there on every month, it is steadily declining. So, this is something to keep in mind.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, because again, guys, that ABA and what money we get from the state, that's quite a bit of loss of revenue.
Yeah.
That we're gonna be receiving because of less students.
Right. You know, when it's about 60 students less than last year, but it stays about 60 students all the way across, that's one thing. We seem to be getting a little lower all the time. Okay. Doug, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, sir.
On to consent agenda items. This time I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes of prior meetings.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the prior meetings. Any further discussion? All in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Okay, discussion or action items. Discussion and possible consideration on board resolution regarding review of investment program. Mr. Call?
Okay. This starts on page,
32?
Yeah, 130 is the first picture, the pictures and stuff, and then 132. This is an annual item that we have to do once a year. The reports that we give you monthly suffice to a portion of what we have to comply with by the Public Funds Investment Act. But this is so there's put the ribbon, bow on the ribbon or whatever, package or whatever you say, we'll wrap it up. But annually, the board is required to review the investment policies of the district, and then they are required to adopt a resolution to the effect of verifying the policies and our goals and our compliance and everything like that. Our investments comply with our written policy, and this annual report ensures our compliance. We're on page 132. And the auditors perform a portion of this too. They verify this as part of their annual financial audit. And this annual report ensures our compliance too. Investment officers are required to have 10 hours of training every 2 years. And my last 10 hours was in April of 2019. And so I'm due for it this year, and Mr. Morales will be due to it too.
The superintendents have to do this every 2 years also.
They do it too. And they are coming out with more online courses, and that's probably what we'll end up doing. We've usually gone to Region 16 to get that training, but we haven't got it scheduled, but we'll get that done this year. Our district investments are in certificates of deposit or broker accounts, which inherently meet our objectives on page 6. And Investment officers have no personal business relationship with any broker-dealers which fall under the statute. And investment reports complying with these provisions, we have to provide at least quarterly written reports, which we do, and this annually too. So, then on page 134 is a list of broker-dealers and training providers that the board has to approve are listed there. And then on page 136 is a comparison of our investable funds at the end of this year compared to last year. You can see the total funds are down a little bit. They're real similar. The general fund is $7,956,000, and these are the same numbers basically as in our financial report, compared to $8,675,000. And we're at the same position basically because I believe our tax collections are slower right now than they were December of a year ago. They're just coming in slower right now. And then the other accounts are real similar. The capital projects fund, we were just a year ago we were closing out those roof projects, and we still had CDs in there, and that's since closed out a year ago. And now we're down to the CD for our turf project, the $81,000. So the others, the interest and sinking funds are a little bit lower because of lagging in tax collections too there a little bit. So we're in good shape financially. So our cash flow is adequate. We've got, we should get a pretty good bump in tax collections the end of this month and the first week of February. And after that, it sort of trickles in after that.
Doug, did the district used to give a early deduction on taxes?
A discount?
Yes.
I don't believe Alpha Creek County or President has ever done that. Lipscomb County does it.
Yeah, most of those counties do.
And my opinion is I think you're giving away too much to do that. You're going to eventually collect it by January anyway. That's people can disagree on that, but I think it's a pretty. I think the way Lipscomb County does it, it's like a declining deal. You pay it in October, it's like 5% to 4%, 3%, something like that.
Yeah, I lived in counties like that when starting in October.
I think if you were really needing cash flow, that's costing you money to do that. It's like almost like interest.
Well, it's not a huge number. It just seems like a buy. Paying your taxes incentive is what it seems like.
Yeah. For our recommendations, again on page 138, the monthly and annual reports fully disclose our policies. Our strategy is liquidity, safety with FDIC coverage or collateral, and yield are our goals. And our plan is to continue our current policies and practices. And then the resolution that y'all need to consider is on page 13. Y'all can read that there. And then we are restating your board investment policies there. There's two, of course, you have the local and legal. CDA local isn't listed there. It's like 4 pages, I believe. And then CDA legal is 19 pages. So if y'all are in agreement there, if y'all could entertain a motion to pass that resolution, we'll be moving on.
At this time, I would entertain a motion to pass the board resolution regarding review of investment program presented by Mr. Redlaw. So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the board resolution regarding review of investment program. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Doug, did add to sign a paper? Do you have a paper or something?
Yeah, I've got a couple of deals. I'll catch them, their signatures
Okay.
before we leave.
Go and
Yeah.
Sign it.
You bet.
Okay.
One of them will be for the minutes, and then one for the district's records.
Okay. Mr. Morales, next we have consideration and, on softball field renovation costs.
Yes. Guys, I talked to, Jim Powell, and we visited and stuff, and he didn't wanna present tonight before we were, on that. Him and I decided that probably what we need to do is for you all to give me permission to open bids and start the process all over again. Because Fred just wasn't really happy. And so the advice of our attorney is that, that we go out and open bids.
It's, not really started completely over, just opening it up for
Yeah,
bids.
we got a good estimate, a good idea of what it's gonna cost us, but, yeah, we need to reopen.
Find out.
Is Jim gonna be here next meeting?
Yeah, as soon as we give this decision, then he'll be here next week.
Softball's just about to start.
Softball is just starting.
This was never supposed to be done before softball season.
No.
It can't be done before softball season.
Yeah, I understand. I just was wondering if there's any reason we're in a rush here.
No, we're not in a rush. I'm just saying, we can decide to do this or not do it. I mean, we can open bids or not open bids. I mean, that's up to you all.
Yep.
Idiots, you got a bunch of idiots in Austin that are working on our.
I know, on our finance.
But if we decide to do it, the project really needs to be started in May.
Yeah.
Or else we get behind the ball again.
That's like we did this time.
Do we need a motion to open bids?
Need a motion to open bids.
Cause I mean, even if we open bids and decide not to.
Yeah, you
We don't have to decide.
Yeah, you don't have to
So
decide.
I move we open bids on softball budget.
Okay.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to, accept bids on the softball project to be considered at a future date. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 6-1. Okay. All right, Mr. Morales, we have discussion of possible consideration for probationary contract, for a teacher. Do you have a recommendation for us?
Yes, this is a probationary contract, which means it's a one-year contract. This is for Mariah Garcia. The committee had interviewed 3 candidates. They decided she was the best, candidate, to fill that RTI position at the junior high. She has applied, and if I'm correct, she was accepted to a teaching program. So that does qualify her. So the recommendation is that, we hire Mariah Garcia as probationary teacher for RTI for the junior high.
Okay. At this time, I'd entertain a motion to approve the hire of Mariah Garcia for an RTI teacher at the junior high.
What was your recommendation, Jim?
Yes.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Got a motion and a second to approve the hire of Mariah Garcia as an RTI teacher at the junior high. All in favor?
Discussion?
Oh, discussion?
I just wanna make one comment. I'm gonna vote against this motion. Goes against my normal principle to vote against administration recommendation, but I feel that that's what I need to do.
Okay.
Should we not include under a probationary contract in our motion?
Yeah, it does say under probationary contract.
Yes, so our motion is, to support the recommendation of Mr. Morales for Mariah Garcia to receive a probationary contract for the remainder of the 2019-2020 school year. That's okay.
It should be.
Oh, 2020,
2021. Yeah, I'm glad.
As an RTI teacher.
Yeah.
So we've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 6-1. Okay. Discussion and possible, consideration on resolution to extend the emergency paid sick leave.
Okay, guys, I don't know if you've had time or not to read through this resolution. Basically, this is the same thing that we were doing with the COVID, the 10 days for the teachers. It if they got COVID or if, one of their children were exposed. Fred had written this up for us, and basically what we're trying to do is keep the same program going for years so everybody has the same chance at that time. I think this is a good thing to do for the teachers that are saying, well, it stopped December 31st, and now I'm not protected anymore if I get COVID. The other thing is, if an individual or a teacher, let's say they only use 5 days of the first semester, then those other 5 days would carry over to give them the 10. But there are a lot of school districts in the state that are doing this for their employees. Really, you know, Dr. Rock and I sent out a questionnaire to all our staff saying, what can we do to relieve some of the stress of COVID on you, because it has been a tough semester. And one of the things that showed up was this, you know, is there any way you can extend our sick leave that we were getting? And if you remember, guys, that was a federal mandate from federal government.
Unfunded mandate.
It was, yeah, it was a mandate, but it was unfunded, and the districts covered that. But there we go, same thing, here you go, Richard, same thing, here's the state, no money, but anyway, I think my recommendation is that you approve this and, we take care of our people.
I think the number that Lisa came up with for W-2 reporting was 187,000.
Yeah, but how does that work with our days though?
It just gives them those days, and they don't have to use their own local days or state days.
But the 187,000 would be our liability if everyone maxed out.
No, that was what was used.
So that's what was used in the
Right.
last semester.
It's sort of,
It's a tricky game.
it's not anything extra out of pocket because we have those salaries already budgeted. But it precludes, the extra cost would be in other places like substitutes and that kind of thing. But it eventually they'll have those other local days that they'll keep, or their other state days, and there'll be costs there. So it'd be really hard to determine.
It's hard to pinpoint exactly. When she told me I about had heart failure.
Yeah, it's nothing that we have to do a budget amendment for, is what I'm
Right,
saying.
and that's when I found that out, then I'm saying,
So they don't, cause I know, you know, a private business, there's some tax benefits.
Yes.
So, but there's nothing.
Not for government.
Not for government, but government.
Now, that's not saying we haven't got some other CARES Act funding
So
sources.
your recommendation is to extend it through August 31st.
Right, because then that would cover all our office people and our maintenance people and people that work in the summer.
Exactly.
That's
And that's the end of the school year.
And that's in
Everybody
school.
has the same opportunity to use it. Hopefully by next school year, we're further along with vaccines, everybody at least having the opportunity to get.
Well, guys, right now, we have one active COVID case in the school. I'm like, whoa, that's really good. That is great. And then I think we only have about 7 or 8 exposures, that are out there. So I really think that number's gonna be less. And then with the vaccines coming along, I think the number's gonna get less. So I don't think we'll use anything like we did the first.
The people that use those 10 days earlier are not eligible. Once you use 10.
They're gone.
It's gone. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't get another 10 just because we're region. Good point, Doug. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, that's just same for everybody. Everybody's got this school year to use.
So 187,000 did include the pay for substitutes or did not?
No, that was the salaries for the 10 days of the people that used those last year. There's a component of that has to be reported on their W-2s. And
Is the policies COVID specific?
Yes.
Yeah.
They have to have documentation of that before it's
We're gonna do the same thing we were doing the first semester, just carry it over to the second semester.
I just wasn't paying attention.
Yeah.
Tricky one.
But, yeah, I'm glad we're saying, guys, we don't want any misunderstanding that we're giving everybody 10 more days. It's only people who have not used them.
I move to approve the resolution.
Okay. All right, I have a motion to approve the resolution to extend the emergency paid sick leave, and I have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. All right. Motion carries 7-0. Discussion and possible consideration on interlocal agreement for partnership between Ranger Roundup Learning Center and Seaboard Foods.
Guys, I'm gonna let Dr. Rock talk a little bit about this one, because she's been ahead on this, to make this thing happen. And we stuck this in here because we thought we would have an agreement by tonight. We don't, so Dr. Rock, pick it up from there.
Yeah, so I did make a follow-up phone call. We've been calling on a weekly basis since we've returned from the winter break. And I did make another follow-up phone call, right before the meeting this afternoon. And they do not have the revisions from their legal counsel. So we are still waiting on that. They have talked about the possibility of making the agreement of the payment for the salary of the teachers that we've already hired in order to prepare for the incoming infants that the Seaboard employees were needing. So they are talking about making it retroactive to help cover those salaries for this month as well.
Sounds like a yes.
Yes. And guys, this is the interlocal agreement unless they change it, unless their attorney changes it. So you're actually getting to see what was proposed.
All right, well, we will just wait and see how it progresses. Okay, next item on the agenda, May 1st, 2021, general election.
One quick question.
Yes, sir.
On this, if they were to come back next week and have, is this something that can wait then until our next regular board meeting, or is this something that we would need a special bill approved to keep the thing moving forward? If they came back next Tuesday and said they had a.
They have told me that they will be following up at the beginning of next week, so I'm hoping for the revisions. I think the other part that they're looking at is the donation of the product. I don't know what they're gonna come back with, given that we did include an amount on here. So I think that's part of the discussion that they're having as well. But we definitely will be having the salary of the 2 part-time employees, and they have already started as we prepared, and we had to complete, we always have to wait for that background check to come back, so we have started them. We've talked about going ahead and start in February the 1st.
Well, and that's why I asked if there was a need perhaps for us to at least
For a call meeting.
pencil in that we would have a call meeting, even a call meeting on Zoom to address one issue. Or it wouldn't take.
Yeah, or we could do a lunch one and, everybody
Do a
come in,
lunch one.
do a 30-minute one and boom.
Come up with something if we needed to address this, get the ball rolling and get them in the game.
Yeah, with the understanding, we, James and Dr. Rock, that we are supportive of the agreement with Seaboard.
Right. But the best thing about this, guys, is they're willing to retroactively pay that person if we started them now.
Best thing about it is it still sounds like a yes.
Mm-hmm. It does, they're just dotting i's and crossing t's.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Okay, sorry, I just had one question.
No, that's perfectly fine. Okay. Now moving on to the May 1st, 2021 general election.
Yes, recommendation is that Perryton ISD and the Board of Trustees call a board election to be conducted on May 1st, 2021.
Okay. This time I'd entertain a motion that Perryton ISD Board of Trustees call a board election to be conducted on May 1st, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. All right, discussion and possible consideration on resolution for a joint election agreement between PISD and the city of Perryton.
Again, recommendation is that Perryton ISD Board of Trustees approve the resolution for a joint election agreement between Perryton ISD and the city of Perryton.
This time I would entertain a motion that Perryton ISD Board of Trustees approve the resolution for a joint election agreement between Perryton ISD and the city of Perryton.
Moved. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Okay, set a date for the February meeting.
Get your phone down.
Across the state.
No, I know, I'm trying, I was looking at it.
He's doing good.
I am on vacation February 15th through 20th. So that week is not possible for me anyway. But Myrtle can run it.
Purple's up for election.
No.
Hide in my basement, don't say anything.
Are there ball games the 23rd?
No,
We're done?
Unless they're playoffs.
There's a chamber banquet in there somewhere, it'll be on a Thursday.
Probably 25th.
Yes, I believe it, it is the 25th.
It's interesting when they, I was looking at
23rd is what we're looking at.
It's interesting across the state.
23rd of the meeting, February 23rd is what we're looking
Doug,
at.
is there any reason we'd have to do it sooner or later for?
No, that would be great, that would be great.
Okay, set the meeting date, February 23rd, it's Tuesday.
Okay.
Okay. Meeting adjourned at 9:29.